Good evening and welcome to NLADA's virtual Exemplar Awards Gala. This is a new format for most of us, so we thank you in advance for your patience and hope you will have a great experience with us. Planning this event and conducting all of our work since March has been interesting, to say the least. So in keeping with the theme of tonight's festivities, celebrating creative solutions, we thought we'd share a few photos of where our creative solutions are coming from these days. This is what the NLADA office looks like now. We have pets as assistants. Getting dressed for the office probably means jeans and a clean shirt, and our commute is about 10 seconds from one room to another. But we're making it work. As part of our imaginative new format, some of the NLADA staff and board have volunteered to host certain segments of the program. Others are acting as curators in the art auction, so please make sure to check out their videos in the auction hall after the program. Our awardees are also joining us from home. None of us are professional actors or speakers, but we wanted to share in tonight's celebration from afar, as we too look forward to this event each year. We also have colleagues joining us from all across the country tonight in their most festive waist-up black tie outfits. So we encourage you to take a selfie and post it to Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook and tag us at NLADA. Also, the chat function is open and running alongside the right side of your screen, so please feel free to post your comments as we move through the program. One last quick reminder. The Social Justice Art Auction will remain open until 1 a.m. Eastern, so you don't need to leave the program before it's over to check on or to set your maximum bids. Okay, let's begin NLADA's first Cyberspace Gala as I introduce, with great pleasure, our President and CEO, Joanne Wallace.
Good evening. Welcome to the 2020 Exemplar Awards virtual gala. Who could have imagined, as we gathered at the beautiful waterfront last year to celebrate the Exemplar Award honorees, that this year we'd be gathering in this virtual space? Well, thank you for joining us in this new venue, and thank you for coming with us to this new venue to celebrate some of the equal justice community's most creative and dedicated advocates. Thank you also for putting on your waist-up black tie finest to help us have a little fun. We certainly need a little fun this year. This has been a sobering, tumultuous time as we face the COVID-19 pandemic and reckon with pervasive racial inequality. But it's also been a time of heroism, from health workers at the epicenter of the medical crisis to delivery workers ensuring that people get necessary food or medicine. Every day, there are stories of common people making sacrifices in this uncommon moment to help others stay safe and be well, or to rise above racial inequality. Ordinary people are taking extraordinary action, putting themselves at risk during a global pandemic to make clear that in America, Black lives must matter. This evening, we celebrate essential workers of another kind, heroes at the epicenter of equal justice. Since the start of the pandemic, civil legal aid advocates have been there to prevent creditors from improperly taking a mother's stimulus check so she can continue to feed her children. They've been there for the individual seeking safety from domestic violence when no one was answering court telephones. Legal aid has been helping families maintain the shelter of their homes when property owners disregard the pandemic eviction moratoria. And they will be there to represent the more than 16 million families who could be at risk of eviction when those moratoria expire. As jails and prisons became among the most prolific hotspots for the novel coronavirus, public defenders have been working every day to reduce unnecessary incarceration and contain the spread of COVID-19 to protect the health and well-being of their clients, correctional staff, and communities. They're fighting for the release of individuals who are sick or at high risk of illness or even death. and they are working to ensure that released individuals have access to shelter and services so they can quarantine away from loved ones. Underfunded public defense and civil legal aid programs often are carrying out these responsibilities without access to personal protective equipment or equipment that supports remote working. They struggle to reach clients whose limited income often means limited access to technology necessary to attend a court hearing or succeed in an online work environment. Legal aid and public defense advocates have had to grapple every day since the start of the pandemic with the tension between their ethical responsibilities to represent clients zealously and their legal and moral obligations to protect the health and safety of staff, colleagues, and family. Some have had to say goodbye to colleagues who fell victim to the virus. Nonetheless, with ingenuity and resilience, they're meeting these challenges. NLADA partners and staff have been with them at the forefront, helping to navigate uncharted terrain while also seeking opportunities to chart a new course toward a more equitable justice system. We've been working with private bar and business allies to make the case for federal funding to help program obtain the resources they need as we prepare for an explosion of new eligible clients and mounting legal needs. In late March, as the pandemic was gripping our world, we launched the COVID-19 Resource Center to share critical data, science, and other information to help programs address the extensive organizational impacts of the pandemic. We transitioned to virtual platforms to provide relevant training and technical assistance and regularly convened legal aid, public defense, and community advocates with national experts to provide real-time expertise and strategic cross-cutting solutions to the unending list of novel legal issues resulting from COVID-19. At the same time, we're working hand in hand with advocates to develop plans to advance racial justice, modeled after NLADA's own Racial Justice Action Plan. Long before George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's names became widely known, NLADA took the bold step of urging legal aid and public defense organizations to acknowledge that effective racial justice advocacy begins with looking critically at your own organization, challenging the status quo while also modeling the way. We ask programs to sign and commit to specific actions described in NLADA's Fight Against Implicit Bias and Racial Inequality Pledge. That's a mouthful, I know. We call it the FAIR Pledge for short. We've also been disseminating resources and conducting training to meet the growing demand for assistance in promoting anti-racist policies and fostering systemic change. This is a mission moment for NLADA, and we have been very busy. So this evening, it's time to celebrate, to acknowledge the tenacity and courage of this community by honoring individuals who have turned crisis into opportunity and challenges into creative ways to help others find justice, year in and year out. Please join me in congratulating the 2020 Exemplar honoree, Marcus Brown, the 2020 Kutek Dodds Prize winners, Adiola Ogunkayode and Jennifer Bias, and the law firm Beacon of Justice recipients. You will be hearing a lot more about these extraordinary people shortly. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge this evening's co-chairs. Their leadership within NLADA is invaluable. Please also join me in applauding all of this evening's sponsors, without whom this event and our work would not be possible. And a special thank you to our leadership level supporters. Thank you also to our development and event team led by Aileen Moffitt. On top of all the regular activities that go into putting on a successful event, they have had to pivot repeatedly to stay ahead of this unusual, quickly changing environment. They did it with grace, efficiency, and laughter, and I really appreciate their efforts. Thank you. Finally, I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege to thank one of the event chairs, Clint Lyons, for his entrepreneurial spirit and years of unwavering leadership and contribution to the NLADA community. It was Clint's vision that led to the establishment of the NLADA Insurance Program Service Corporation, whose products and services promote quality representation while the business supports NLADA's high-purpose mission. As most of you know, Clint will be retiring from his position as president, CEO, and board chair of the Service Corporation, and this may be his last time, after 2 decades, mind you, of co-chairing this annual event. So Clint, thank you for your very generous, consistent support and leadership. I'm excited to have the privilege of following you as Service Corporation's president and CEO next year, as we work to form an even stronger alliance with business in support of this amazing community of equal justice leaders. For now, from all of us at NLADA, again, thank you for joining our virtual gala. I hope you enjoyed the cocktail party, that you've had a chance to bid on some fabulous social justice art in the silent auction. Bidding, by the way, is still open till 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and that you will be inspired as you hear about some of the heroes at the epicenter of equal justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne, for sharing the good work of NLADA's staff, board, and of course, our entire community. So much has been accomplished, but so much still remains to be done. One of the highlights of this event each year is the presentation of the Kutak Dodds Prizes.
Good evening. The Kutak Dodds Prizes are named in honor of the late Robert J. Kutak, a member of the first Legal Services Corporation Board, and the late Kenneth R. Dodds, former partner in my law firm, Kutak Rock. The awards celebrate excellence and innovation in public defense and civil legal aid. On behalf of NLADA and the Robert J. Kutak Foundation, it is my genuine pleasure to present the 2020 Kutak Dodds Prizes to Adeola Ogunkede, first ever Chief Public Defender for Travis County, Texas, who previously served as the inaugural director for Legal Aid Justice Center's Civil Rights and Racial Justice Program, and Jennifer Bias, Wisconsin State Public Defender's Trial Division Director.
Everywhere she goes, Adeola Ogunkede stands astride the artificial chasm between civil and defender worlds and makes each better by being influenced by the other. As the first Chief Public Defender for Travis County, she is charged with building a holistic defense office. And her tenure as the inaugural legal director of the Legal Aid Justice Center's Civil Rights and Racial Justice Program was characterized by a strategic mix of community organizing, local and statewide policy advocacy, and impact litigation. Her colleagues wrote to NLADA of Adeola's impact on their community. Her work in Virginia began in February 2017, just months before the KKK rallies and deadly Unite the Right rally made Charlottesville an international hashtag. As our community faced overt crisis that drew national attention, Adeola's instinct was to listen to Black and Brown community members, who had been saying for years that racism and white supremacist systems in Charlottesville, both covertly and overtly, have oppressed people of color. As she often did, Adeola found a way to give voice to the painful sting of injustice that so many Charlottesville community members had felt for as long as they could remember. I am pleased to introduce Adeola Ogunkede as a 2020 Kutak Dodds Prize winner.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Adeola Ogunkede, and I'm honored to be joining you as one of this year's recipients of the Kutak Dodds Award alongside Jennifer Bias. It is completely humbling to be receiving the award alongside someone who's had such a long and illustrious career as Jennifer has had with the Wisconsin State Public Defender's Office. And I'm just so excited to be able to, take a look at her career and take lessons from it for my own, such that, when, I reached as long as Jennifer has had as her tenure with Wisconsin. I can look back and say I did 1/10 of the fabulous things that she did. So congrats to you, Jennifer. I am, particularly thrilled to have been nominated for this award by my colleagues at the Legal Aid Justice Center, because even though we don't work together anymore, I feel, that we're still deeply connected in the work. There is no ability for me to transition into the chief public defender of a brand new public defender office without the work that I did at the Legal Aid Justice Center, because I bring with me all of the knowledge, both of my years as a more traditional criminal defense attorney in a holistic public defender's office, as well as my years at the Legal Aid Justice Center, where I was able to work deeply and walk alongside the community to bring forward solutions and responses to their lived experiences that they thought of for themselves. And so I'm deeply humbled to receive this award because there were times when I questioned whether I was doing the work in the right way. And to the extent that the first answer came as a resounding yes from the community that I worked with in Virginia, receiving this award is just the icing on the cake for that. And so thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Wisconsin Trial Division Director Jennifer Bias began her career as an attorney in 1987 as an assistant state public defender. Deeply committed to serving clients, she tackles complex issues within the agency, including racial disparities, juvenile issues, immigration, forensics, family defense, and more. Jennifer is a powerful voice in the courtroom and in policy settings at the state, local, and federal level. She continues to provide training and individual mentorship with both state public defender staff as well as outside partners in law enforcement, prosecution, and the judiciary. The Wisconsin State Public Defender Kelly Thompson refers to Jennifer as our go-to person and gave the following example. During the protest that took place because of the shooting of Jacob Blake, Jennifer was on site and constantly communicating with the local managers and court personnel so attorneys and staff could continue to do their jobs even though the area surrounding the office was locked down. It is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Bias as a 2020 Kutak Dodds Prize winner.
Thank you, National Legal Aid and Defender Association, for this most auspicious honor. Your recognition and support for all of us who do this work, who serve poor and marginalized communities in the courtrooms across America, is so wonderful. Thank you to Wisconsin Public Defender Kelly Thompson and to the entire leadership team at the Wisconsin Public Defender, Katie and Sarah, Adam and Diane, Martina and John, Nancy, Kathy, Gina, and Joe. Thank you, and this award is accepted on your behalf as well. We at the Public Defenders have worked really, really hard these last few years to address the constitutional crisis in our state, working to convince the legislature to increase the pay rate for our private bar partners. What a wonderful relief to finally achieve that goal, at least in part, and at least for now, this past January. I'm humbled and honored to accept this award. I'm standing here on the shoulders of so many women of color and lawyers, advocates, social workers who have worked for the poor and downtrodden all across our state, all across our country, speaking truth to power. I dedicate this award to not only our law firm in Wisconsin, but also to all of the public defenders across the United States who are working so very hard during this time of crisis and introspection. I dedicate this award to all of the rising stars in the Wisconsin Public Defender Agency, all of the new lawyers who are so smart and dedicated, who are so passionate and work so hard around the work that we do, and for the clients that we serve all across the state of Wisconsin. Thank you for standing on the Constitution. Thank you for being a voice for the voiceless. Thank you for standing up for their rights. By doing so, you are ensuring liberty and justice for us all. Thank you.
Congratulations to the 2020 Kutek Dodds Prize winners. They are always such an inspiration to all of us. Let's break from the formal program for just a few moments while we revisit the social justice art auction. Here's a short highlights reel for you.
Good evening. This is the second year that NLADA is featuring a social justice art auction with our Exemplary Awards Gala. I hope everyone has had a chance to browse the art auction before the program started and have placed your initial bids. There are 50 donated pieces in this year's auction, each with a unique story. We'd like to thank the artists for their contributions to the auction in support of equal justice. There are some of the most creative pieces you will ever see, with the impulse to create art as an expression of place, emotion, and so much more. These items have been created on envelopes, pieces of fabric, and magazine covers when clean paper and paints were unavailable, or the canvases of social justice advocates who hit you hard with a compelling story. For example, please take a look at the pieces by Jeremy Hamel, who paints with bits of twisted tissue and coffee, and Justine Fisher's canvas depicting Sandra Bland. Then review the cerebral pastels of flowers and roosters created by Kathy Tyler, who has been incarcerated since 1978. They are all remarkable. NLADA staff have prepared short videos about many of the auction pieces that help introduce you to the artists, art programs, and of course their amazing work. We invite you to watch these clips in the auction hall when you place your bids. The auction is presently closed, but will reopen immediately following the close of our program and will remain open until 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Winners will be notified by email tomorrow. Good luck. We hope you will soon be the winner of one of these incredible pieces. Thank you for supporting NLADA and our social justice art auction.
And now, the Beacon of Justice Awards.
The ongoing humanitarian crisis along the U.S. southern border impacts hundreds of thousands of migrant children, women, and men seeking asylum or hoping to immigrate to the United States. And our broken immigration system impacts millions more. Ever-changing federal policies and practices have exacerbated the already difficult situation these individuals face, and that is to say nothing of the added challenges of COVID-19. But the Beacon of Justice awardees are not deterred by the magnitude of the need. Each firm has boldly pursued impact in their own unique ways. The 2020 Beacon of Justice awardees are doing life-saving and life-altering work as they uphold the rule of law and safeguard the legal rights of individuals and families desperately searching for safety and the blessings of liberty that America promises. These firms' pro bono programs combine the passion and skill of their attorneys and paralegals with the weight of their firm's resources to both improve the lives of their individual clients and to make lasting immigration policy change. Here are a few examples.
I want to say something. Agradezco a todos ustedes por lo que hacen y están haciendo por mí y otros jóvenes. Todo esto para mí significa mucho, porque no todos tenemos la bendición de contar con ustedes y tener la dicha de estar en este país que para mí como joven es seguro. Me siento feliz de poder estar trabajando legalmente. Gracias de nuevo a todos. Lo siento, así no me sé el nombre de todos, pero thanks for all, everyone.
There has been this lawsuit that's been around for years. It's called the Flores case. And the case ended in a settlement in the mid-90s. The case was brought to protect children in US custody who had come across the border and were basically in detention. So a settlement agreement was reached years ago that provides a certain baseline of standards for these detention facilities and other types of facilities when children are in custody in conjunction with the immigration process. Really, lives were in danger. Children died of flu in US custody last year, in part of the conditions in these centers during this time of a surge and an overcapacity, and the system just couldn't handle it. But there needed to be a system in place to remedy it, and it needed to be brought to the attention of the court. It was a huge team of people who mobilized, worked all through a weekend to put together a great brief and supporting affidavits and got it filed. And, you know, the whole thing kind of blew up, right? I mean, there was already media attention and congressional attention, and our filing, you know, just expanded on all of that. The court appointed a public health expert, a doctor named Paul Wise at Stanford, who was then given authority to go behind the scenes at every one of these facilities and see what's going on and start a dialogue with the government to say, this is where you need to fix things. What is so heartwarming to me is ORIC's commitment to the fight, to the cause, and in making an impact through pro bono. And here it's just so concrete that we know we're making a difference in children's lives.
Many of the attorneys and the staff that do this work are driven by the satisfaction that they receive from our clients. So often our pro bono clients are so thankful to be alive even. You know, our political asylum clients are ones that come over from other countries with nothing. And we virtually help them save their lives, because if we lose, they're going to be sent back to a country where they're tortured or even put to death.
Each awardee has a powerful story, and this evening we have shared just a small sample of those. Still, there are many more stories of great impact to share with you. So this fall, NLADA will create a digital production expanding on the work of all of this evening's awardees that we will share with the community. Please watch for a notice of release of that digital publication, as we are certain you will want to learn more about their incredible work.
Public defenders are used to having limited resources to do their jobs. We're used to having less than the other side when we go into court, when we represent our clients, when we see clients, when we communicate with clients. But that's something that we're used to. The workload is difficult, the obstacles are sometimes insurmountable, and yet we do this job every single day because it's the work that we do, and we're there to help others. We're there to support others. We're there to represent those most in need. And then a pandemic hits, And what we come to realize is even with a pandemic, even with coronavirus, our liberties don't go away. Our due process rights don't go away. People's rights are still there, and we are there to provide those rights, to represent those individuals, to be there to help and support those individuals, to advocate for those individuals in a criminal justice system that is already so overburdened. What we found when the pandemic hit was those lack of resources, that lack of technology, those ways to communicate with individuals were so limited in ways that we were never expecting. And so what do public defenders do? They do what they always do. They find ways to continue to represent clients. They find ways to advocate for their clients. They find ways to communicate with their clients. Public defenders across the nation had to find ways in which to all of a sudden be able to talk with their clients, communicate with their clients, and discuss these cases that did not go away and would not go away because of a pandemic. And it's with very limited resources. Technology is so important. Technology brings so many of us together. We found this during the pandemic where we're all using Zoom and meeting and talking and discussing and being able to communicate. Our clients oftentimes don't have those resources, and public defender offices so often do not have those resources. So we have to look to others. We have to look to the community. And that's what we did. We looked to others to say, we need to come together to provide that technology, those resources that just are so critical for us to be able to do our jobs. And we look to organizations like NLADA that really bring the public defenders, defense attorneys, civil legal aid, and clients together under one umbrella to say, what can we do together?
NLADA was founded over a century ago by legal aid and public defense leaders who understood that they needed a strong national advocate to support effective local advocacy. NLADA's work supports these heroes on the ground and expands resources so that one day in America, everyone will have access to the legal assistance they need to respond to life-altering circumstances. With a mere tap of a few buttons on your phone, you can support our work during this mission-critical moment. So won't you take out your phone and join us? Thank you.
Hello, colleagues. My name is Daniela Dwyer, and I'm honored to be part of this presentation as the agricultural worker section of the NLADA. I'm the managing attorney of Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, and one of the most difficult things about the pandemic for our staff has been seeing our clients struggle more than usual. Farm workers across the country are some of the most underappreciated people. And there was some media celebrating them as essential workers, recognizing them properly as people who feed every one of us. But unfortunately, the pandemic has really shown that the lack of access to health care, the lack of specific on-the-job protections, the lack of the right to collectively organize for agricultural workers, the lack of affordable housing, and so many other things that you and I take for granted are things that are hitting the farm worker population nationwide that much harder. So we'd really like to thank the NLADA for the role that they've played in continuing our monthly national conversations on the needs of migrant and seasonal farm workers, as well as the various webinars that they've facilitated us with providing to our colleagues throughout the country who need to address very urgent issues like what to do with migrant and seasonal farm workers who are migrating from one location to another and need to get tested, or how to assist farm workers when we ourselves are doing outreach, but need to make sure that we stay healthy so that we can continue to most effectively represent our clients. There's no other organization that does that.
And now to be even more direct. You just heard powerful testimonials about the challenging situations clients, civil legal aid attorneys, public defenders, and the entire equal justice community are facing right now. NLADA works diligently day in and day out to create solutions to those challenges. And we need your help. I'll say that again. We really need your help. So please text to give and give generously. Your gift will have immediate and substantial impact. Thank you.
And now it's my special pleasure to introduce you to the 2020 Exemplar honoree, Marcus Brown. This award is presented annually to corporate or private counsel who have demonstrated outstanding leadership, vision, dedication, and achievement in promoting and supporting equal justice in their communities.
Marcus Brown serves as Entergy Corporation's Executive Vice President and General Counsel, where he provides legal counsel to the Chairman and CEO, Board of Directors, and Senior Management. He also leads a number of teams, including the company's legal, ethics and compliance, communications, and federal policy, regulatory, and governmental affairs groups.
He really has this capability to take all of that information and boil it down to what's important. And then he shows the high degree of integrity and moral character that you really want in a leader. People want to follow him.
Under Brown's leadership, Entergy employees and retirees have donated more than 1 million hours in volunteer service to Entergy's community since 2008. And in 2012, the legal department launched a program that dramatically increased the pro bono commitment of company lawyers and paralegals. The pro bono program has provided nearly 17,000 hours of legal assistance to some of the most vulnerable citizens across the Entergy region. And in 2018, the company reaffirmed its commitment by creating a new pro bono counsel role, which became Entergy's first full-time pro bono leader.
Marcus Brown's commitment to pro bono and ensuring equal justice is unparalleled. Marcus promoted and created a sustainable model that ensured the business community would see the value of supporting the most vulnerable in need of legal services. The direct impact is considerable. The lives of our clients have been improved by thousands of hours of legal work donated by Marcus and those he inspires. The indirect impact is incalculable.
We have a real desire to participate in the community, and it's personal to all of us. Marcus has actually taken that to a level above what most of us do in our daily lives. The pro bono legal work is one that's very, very important to him, because a lot of people in our communities in the Mississippi Delta don't have access to legal counsel. They don't have access to that type of thing that many of us take for granted.
Brown serves on the board of directors for Energy Insurance Mutual, the advisory board of the Tulane Center for Energy Law, and the advisory council for the Laborde Energy Law Center at Louisiana State University. He is also a frequent lecturer and publisher on topics impacting the utility industry and the legal profession.
He is genuinely a friend to everyone. I know he's gained his success in life by being a team builder, a bridge builder, and that's just his nature, to be inclusive, and he leads in that way.
Prior to joining Entergy in 1995, he was an attorney at Stone Pigman Law Firm. Brown has a bachelor's degree from Southern University A&M College and a doctorate in law from the Southern University Law Center, where he was a member of the Law Review.
I will say he's one of the best leaders that we have at the company.
On behalf of the Board of Directors, staff, volunteer attorneys, and the countless Mississippians we have provided free legal assistance to, the Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project salutes our friend, Attorney Marcus Brown, for his exemplary leadership, commitment to pro bono, especially with MVLP, and for his caring spirit for ensuring that underserved Mississippians have access to the justice system. This is a well-deserved honor for you, Marcus. It has been years in the making, and we are so proud and so grateful to be a part of this celebration with you.
Entergy congratulates Marcus on this well-deserved honor.
So let's just start with a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and your mentors and your influences in your life that led you to be an advocate for social justice?
Initially, I was born in Fairfield, California, in an Air Force family, but I grew up most of my life in central Louisiana. And my big influences growing up were actually my parents. My mother was an educator, taught school for 29 years, and my father was enlisted in the Air Force. And so I grew up sort of in between the military life and the life of a school teacher. And they were very focused on making sure that we experienced as much as we could, you know, and we had dreams and goals that were bigger than their lives. And so those were my big influencers, and that's where I grew up.
So why did you want to become a lawyer?
I'm a first-generation lawyer. My sister is a lawyer. And, you know, I grew up in the South, grew up in a largely segregated, in a desegregated, you know, era, in a segregated, you know, town. And a lot of the things I experienced growing up through either my own personal experience or the lives of my parents led me to want to know more about what people could and could not do to you. It wasn't so much that I had an aspiration to practice law, to do anything about like what I'm doing now. My aspirations were much more local in the sense that could I influence and help my family? Could I influence and help the people who were immediately around me? Could I provide some advice and guidance to people who didn't know things that they would know to make their lives a little bit easier?
Corporate America has made some bold statements in the past year, especially from the Business Roundtable about including all stakeholders in driving the business, employees, customers, owners, shareholders. That's the new thing. But at Entergy, you've been driving that for a long time. Can you tell us about your perspective on that?
What you hear a lot in corporations is a conversation about ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Sometimes it's talked about in terms of sustainability. That is a relatively, you know, new or vogue way of talking about people, the planet, and profits, the 3 Ps. But a company, you know, who wants to survive long term, companies that want to thrive, have to focus on those things. And the interesting transition that's taken place is that the work that you do in corporate social responsibility, the work that people do in communities, historically was done for the sake of doing good. Now investors expect it. People expect that you will take the time to invest more in the places that you provide products or services or goods. And so the ESG effort has really taken off. We have been focused on that at Entergy for a long time. Wayne Leonard, who was the CEO before our current CEO, Leo Denault, both have been focused on eradication of poverty, education, and protecting the environment. Those have been 3 pillars of our CSR and our company's philosophy. So when you say, you know, I've been focused on it for a long time, I know what you mean is that the company has been focused on that for a long time. The other thing that we have to be very conscious of is that we provide service in an area where a lot of our customers are at or below the poverty level. And so we have to be very concerned about, are they able to sustain their lives as they buy our product? And so we've got employees who have been committed for many, many years, not just in terms of creating a product that's affordable and reliable, but we spend a lot of time in the community, a lot of time touching the customers that we provide that service to every day in other ways, in the schools, through other programs that allow people to raise themselves up from circumstances where they may be struggling. It's philosophy that I bought into a long time ago. It's philosophy that the company has been committed to for a very, very long time.
Tell us a little bit about how that plays out within the legal group specifically and the trailblazing pro bono effort that your group is doing.
We made community service and pro bono a part of the individual goals of the people who work in our department. So there's an expectation that everybody spend some time working in the community. We make time for that. We give them paid time off to do that. And we provide opportunities and training through your group, Patty, and other groups who will actually give them insight and support in terms of where you can do the work, what kind of skills and capabilities you need to bring with that. And so that's how we started focusing everybody on the task. The response to it has been tremendous. I mean, we've got about a 98% participation rate amongst our lawyers and our staff members who all participate in some way in pro bono and community service. And that translates into about 8,000 hours a year of support in the communities. It's a lot of effort. People enjoy doing it, and we build a lot of really strong relationships across our service territory, across the communities that we serve, because we do that kind of work. A couple of years ago, we added a full-time pro bono lawyer who is focused on that, Christy Kane. And we are the first Fortune 500 company to have a full-time position that is focused on pro bono. I think we were recently joined by another company, but I think there are only two. And thinking about making a commitment to pro bono where you have a lawyer whose job it is to think about that all day, every day, to find opportunities for the people on our teams, to do training, to interact in the community. And that has been such a huge boost in terms of our ability to be impactful. Christy does a lot of the legwork around, what we might do in the communities, which means that lawyers who traditionally would have done a lot of that work themselves, a lot of the administrative work around, managing a pro bono effort within your department, they can now just focus on doing the work. And so that's been a huge addition to our team.
And how do you think that aligns with NLADA's Corporate Advisory Committee?
I think what the NLADA does in terms of the work it does in the communities across America is completely aligned with what we are trying to do in our particular area of the country. And I also think that the work that NLADA does aligns with the new sustainability or the ESG goals. In the midst of all of this focus on social justice, in the midst of all of the unrest, what are companies doing? Companies are trying to figure out, where do we invest our time and money to have some real impact? What should we support? What should we do? Should we bring somebody in to teach us? Should we send our resources out to somebody who actually has proven that they can do this work well? The NLADA has been around for a long time, and they have been working in communities doing the type of social justice work that people are now focusing on. So what better way for a company to ensure that its investment is going to match its intentions is to support an organization that actually has been doing the work. Not only doing the work, support an organization that can then come back to you and show you the results of the work that they've done.
Very important.
The metrics, not
accountability and results.
Exactly. Here's what we've done, here's what we've spent the money, and here's the outcome. So I think that the focus on sustainability gives organizations like the NLADA and other organizations an opportunity to rebrand themselves. Because sustainability and ESG is a part of a corporation's strategy now. It is not doing good for good's sake. It is an expectation that is how you run your business. And because of the work that organizations like this has been doing for years, they can align their strategy with the corporate strategy. Those resources go into place where they're going to make the most impact. And the metrics to show the impact can be delivered back to the company to show its stakeholders, here's what we've done. So I think it's just a great opportunity to rebrand.
So are there people you could point to who inspired you along the way?
There have been lots of incredible people I've met in my career. I've met, leaders from other countries. I've met presidents. I've met all. I've been really lucky in that respect. The people who taught me most, and I will end where I began, were my parents. I had a combination of a mother who taught school, but she taught us all the time, every day, and she led with how we treated people, how we encountered people, how we dealt with people. And then my father was a man who had, he was a highly intelligent, extremely motivated man who lived in an era where he was never going to be what he could have been. And so his motivation was to make sure that all of us ended up getting as far as we could get. And so I watched him struggle trying to fight through a system where he was never going to be able to win. But he lived long enough to watch us succeed in ways that he was really proud of. And so those were sort of my heroes and my motivators, but there have been tremendous people that I work with every day, that work with me every day. I'm very much a person who tries to connect with people in a way that just allows them to do what they do really well. And I will be the first to tell you I have been really lucky. I mean, I work with some really talented people. And so I sit in this chair and I'm getting an award but I'm not getting an award. It's the work of you and the teams of people I work with every day who have committed the time and the effort to do the work in the community, that results in the recognition that we're getting. And so I'm the lucky one.
So that brings us to the end of our conversation. Do you have any closing thoughts to share?
The work that people probably need to focus most on is a simple thing. When we were all in kindergarten, we were taught to treat people the way you want to be treated. I mean, it's a very simple concept. People in society, they want safety and prosperity for their families. They want to achieve whatever they are capable of achieving, in their lives, and they don't want impediments to that. And I think fundamentally, all Americans understand that. And to have a society that creates any sort of impediments to things that are foundational to what everybody should have, those have to be removed. That's not a big idea. That's a simple concept that we've all always known. We've got to figure out ways to implement that. We have to figure out ways to just treat people the way that you expect to be treated in return.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Marcus, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Patty.
Many congratulations to the 2020 Exemplar Award winner, Marcus Brown. And thank you to Entergy for all sorts of technical and video assistance. Congratulations to our Kutak Dodds Prize winners and Beacon of Justice awardees for all of their incredible work. And most of all, thank you to each of you for your support of NLADA and for your commitment to promoting equal justice and racial equity under these extraordinary circumstances. We hope that you will continue to support the equal justice community and NLADA with a gift. Just text the number on the screen. All contributions have direct impact. We also encourage you to check in on your favorite pieces at the Social Justice Art Auction. If you're on your way to bed, don't forget that you can set your maximum bids and let the computer do the bidding work for you. And now from all of us to all of you, thank you and good night.